The season is approaching, and the NHL has announced that they are going to be having new jerseys for every team. And also, we got early NHL 27 ratings out.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up? What's going on? I'm your host, Zane Begg, and I'm a Seattle-based journalist covering the Seattle Supersonics, Troy, and Kraken, and welcome to Locked On Kraken. Today, we're going to talk about could the Seattle Kraken buy the Seattle Torrent, because there's some real turmoil and uncertainty happening with the PWHL. The early ratings for the Kraken players in NHL 27 are out, and they are not the most exciting. But first, let's talk about the NHL has announced that something new is coming to all 32 NHL cities this season. The countdown is on for the first of its kind hometown remix program by the NHL and Fanatics. More details to come after the puck drops on the 2026-27 season next month. It says, the collection will be anchored by special edition uniforms that uniquely and authentically celebrates the fans, city, and local culture of each team. And it will follow shortly after the season begins. I have seen some, speculation, and I saw a leak that did not look terribly plausible. The center ice logo is what it was last year. This is according to Sound of Hockey, who took a photo presumably 2 days ago. And it looks to be the same center ice logo as the Abyss logo that they went with last year. The Abyss jerseys are still going to be in circulation for 2 more years. So if you are a big fan of not being able to read numbers on jerseys, then you're in luck. So, the Kraken have not had the best history with alternate jerseys. I mean, they all look really good. You get your classic home, and just what a great look. And then the reverse retro jerseys are probably my favorites in terms of just readability. The contrast between the numbers and the fabric that's on as a deep sea blue on ice blue, really nice for just visually seeing what's going on. Now, the Kraken, they never won a game in those reverse retro jerseys, and I think they only won a game in the Abyss jerseys just by brute force, because I think the Kraken wore them 11 times. It wasn't great. The other notable third jersey the Kraken had was the Winter Classic a few years ago, and they designed special retro-esque jerseys for the outdoor game here at T-Mobile Park, where the Mariners play. And these were beautiful, just beautiful. I mean, if you're listening on audio, imagine something that's just beautiful. Now, imagine that the Kraken are wearing those things. Isn't that just beautiful? Jerseys are cool. I like the third jerseys. They sell money. I think there might be a little bit of jersey fatigue. Maybe I'm just not a big fan of the Abyss jerseys. I think they're cool. They're like supposed to be bioluminescent and glow in the dark, but they don't really. And it is just really hard to read the numbers. The outline of the ice blue, just the outline of the numbers on top of the deep sea blue, or it's not even deep sea blue, it's black, with the red trim, like that looks cool up close. But I gotta tell you, when you're trying to like follow the game and cover the game, I'm sure John Forsland is not a big fan of these jerseys, because it's just hard to read. It looks cool, like the aesthetics are cool, and maybe I'm the only person who cares about these sort of things. But the media press box is so high, it's like at the very top, and so you get to see the whole ice. You get to see everything that's going on, which is the right place to be. Like, for example, basketball, you're down at court level and where you can see things. If you're at ice level for a hockey game, you would miss just way too much. But then the downside is it's really, really hard to read the numbers, and it's really hard to see what's going on. And it's really difficult to follow the action. And I know, when I hear John Forsland, even probably the greatest announcer in hockey, or certainly one of them, he struggles with it. He's been doing this for a long time. And, I would like lock into, because when I interned and, was pursuing an radio hockey play-by-play career. And just one of the things that I like to do when I'm up there is, when I kind of get lost and kind of start losing focus, I lock in by doing play-by-play in my head. And it's just like, okay, here's the player. Here's who has the puck. Here's where it goes. And it's radio. So it's really verbose, in my head. And it is really, really difficult to do that with the Abyss jerseys. I haven't really done a lot of road games in person. I think I've done like 3 or 4. So I haven't had that particular experience with, calling a game in my head. But I hope that whatever the NHL decides on, 2 things. I don't know who's designing it. I don't know if it's going to be the NHL, or if it's going to be the Kraken, or it's going to be in conjunction with the Kraken, or who has authority, who has final authority on what the design will be and who signs off on that. I don't know. I will say I hope the Kraken, whoever their marketing team is and their design team, is deeply involved, because I can be old man yells at cloud and be like, the numbers are too hard to read, but they all look great. I mean, they're all bangers. Like, every one of them just looks so good. And, they just have such a strong eye for design and for color and for making things pop and understanding the city that they come from. There's a real civic identity and there's a real civic connection to the between the team and the city, and they realize that, and that is not always true. For example, we're just talking about T-Mobile Park, and we'll talk about the Mariners, because I'm going to complain about the Mariners during the ad read. Spoiler. You go to T-Mobile Park. T-Mobile Park is beautiful. I love going to games there, but it doesn't really say that you're in Seattle. You're just like, this is a cool ballpark. This is a beautiful place to watch a team play another team, and then hopefully the team that you wanted to won. And if not, then that's Mariners baseball, baby. But there's nothing that says, hey, you're in Seattle. I mean, not really. I guess there's like the salmon race, and there are a few things, but when you go to a Kraken game, first of all right, you're going because the arena was dug 60 feet into the ground. So now you got to go down, literally down into the deep. And then there's all this imagery and the big squid tentacle and you get the ship, the nautical pre-game video. And it's just like, oh, you're in Seattle. You're in Seattle, and these are all the Seattle things we do. And we love our city, and we love our quirky little city. And here are all the little things that Seattle does and what it represents. And it's an embracement of the identity of the city in a way that I hope that an outside entity would not overlook. Bowie being a troll, like that is, it's like, oh, why a troll? Well, because of the troll under the Fremont Bridge, and so on and so forth. And so I'm really interested in what will happen with the remixes. I would not believe any of the leaks. I just haven't seen a lot of plausible leaks, and some of them look real bad. It's kind of like a fake Magic card season where you're like, it's not a real card, buddy. But coming up next, let's talk about the Seattle Kraken's NHL 27, or Chell, as it were, Those ratings are coming out, which means the season's getting closer. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with Daily Dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game. And if you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the unveils season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league. Every game has someone capable of going deep. Now you get the chance to make your prediction before first pitch. And because I am not someone who likes himself very much, clearly, and I'm engaging in self-destructive behavior, I am continuing to believe that the Mariners will make the playoffs. They've got about a 30% chance of doing so. 1-3. Okay, that's really live. And now to hit a home run, you could go Kyle Raleigh, you go Pete Crow Armstrong if you're not feeling great about the Mariners. But Ian Happ or maybe Julio Rodriguez. Who knows? That's the fun part is, you don't know, but then you can you pick your person for your daily dinger, and then you get your profit boost, and then you can move on and have a little bit more fun watching baseball while play some bets on FanDuel. So if you're ready to play your game today, join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer, play ball, and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. So every year, the EA Sports comes out with their annual hockey video game. And, growing up, that was just like a must, just an absolute must to get the latest NHL game. I think NHL 98, I put with my friend, my best friend growing up, Ben, we probably put several hundred hours into that game. We were like upgrading video cards and, to get like better graphics, and was just absolutely obsessed with the NHL, the EA Sports Chill franchise. It's fallen off a fair bit. Is no longer something that I just go out and I buy every year. It's just, the product just isn't what it used to be, but they do have player ratings, and the player ratings are an interesting discussion point because, look, it's not supposed to be, and it's not meant to be a perfect encapsulation of what each player is. It's a video game, and you are going to make even if it's like an old player who's kind of bad. The goal is not to have like perfect, accurate simulation. It's to have fun. And so, like, for example, and I know some people will get mad at me about this, but like Bobby Wagner has been an absolute liability against the pass for several years now. I used to run an NFL betting team, and we would just go after slow-footed linebackers. And Bobby Wagner, even when he was with the Seahawks, and then he went to the Rams, and then the Seahawks were like, oh, great. And they were targeting him in coverage against the Rams, and then he comes back to Seattle for some reason. They're playing him in base, and then Seattle has just this awful defense because Pete Carroll doesn't know that it's not 2013 anymore. And then then he goes to the Commanders, and he's just, if you just look in his run instincts are great, but his pass coverage is just awful. And if you look at his Madden ratings, it's like, Bobby Wagner is he's one of the best linebackers in the NHL or in the NFL. And while that was true at one point, it's certainly not true now. But if I'm picking up a Madden game and I'm like, I want to play this, I want Bobby Wagner on my team, I don't necessarily want the secret he's awful at pass defense and you can just eviscerate him. That's not fun. So there's the goals are a little bit different. They seem like they're aligned, but they are a little bit different. Now, that being said, there aren't that many Bobby Wagners where you take a player who's like really far below where they actually are and then bumping them up. So without further ado, let's just take a look at a little graphic issue. So I filtered by the Kraken players, and they only have down to the top 300. So you're not seeing all the Kraken players. In fact, we're only seeing 7 of them. Ranking at 145, which is the highest ranking Kraken player, is Vince Dunn, and then Brandon Montour, Matty Beniers, Jared McCann, all coming in at an overall rating of 86. Adam Larson, Jordan Eberle at 85, and then ranking 291 out of 300, or 300 qualified players, is Chandler Stevenson with an overall rating of 84. So maybe a little harsh, but not that harsh. I ran a couple of different war rankings using different algorithms and systems. I'm not sure which one I like better. I'm still testing it, and my war model is not where I want it to be yet. Not like the way it is with my expected goals model, which I think is quite good, and holds up pretty well with the under tests. But under my war ranking, I had Jared McCann 69th among forwards, and I think that this is roughly correct. I mean, Chandler Stevenson 372nd out of qualifying forwards. Adam Larson also is, even though he has a lower war projection, and this is a projection of my model, because Adam Larson is aging, and he really struggled last year. It does rate to be lower than Chandler Stevenson. Now, please take these with a grain of salt. When I have an expected goals number, I feel really, really good about this. This war stuff is real. It's I wouldn't build a betting algorithm based on it. I would probably feel okay building a betting algorithm based on the expected goals model. So what this means is, download NHL 27 and EA Sports. It's in the game, and you just start that up and get all the nostalgia. And I think they have a franchise mode that they brought back, which was something that was like a really robust thing 15 years ago, and they're like bringing back old features. If you want franchise mode, just go play Eastside Hockey Manager. It's on Steam. There's like a community to for updating it, because it's an old game, and it's great. And if you really like franchise mode, just play Eastside Hockey Manager. I think it's just a better experience. And EA Sports, just not the biggest fan of the way that they have taking care of their product or their customers. So, but Kraken probably aren't going to be very good in gel, but that's one of the fun things, is taking over a bad team and making moves and trades, and then upgrading them. I always like doing that in franchise mode. And in franchise mode, it's like, if you're a fan of a team that happens to be good that year, it's like, oh god, this is cool, But then the franchise and the rebuilding is less interesting. So coming up next, we're going to talk about the PWHL and the potential financial problems that they're undergoing. And could the Seattle Kraken buy the Seattle Torrent in order to rescue them from insolvency? Thank you for making Locked On Kraken part of your daily listening routine. It really does mean a lot to me. All right, if you've been following the news, so the Professional Women's Hockey League, they are owned solely by a guy named Mark Walter. And he is the CEO of TWG Global and CEO of Guggenheim Partners. And he is currently in the middle of a federal investigation. And so there's been a lot of concern. I mean, we have grand jury subpoenas, there's like SEC inquiries, and he's had to do like this multi-million-dollar asset reclassification. And so there's a lot of concern by Seattle Torrent fans who they just played their first year, and now all of a sudden we don't even know if the league is going to exist because he is the sole owner of the team. Now, it is note to Mark Walter has not yet been charged with a crime, and we don't know if he will be. Federal agents did execute a search warrant above his private plane in September 2025. They seized his phone and laptop. His insurance companies, Delaware Life Insurance Company and Clear Spring Life and Annuity Company, received federal grand jury subpoenas in February of this year. Now, this is where so let's just talk about the investigation itself. So Mark Walter and several entities tied to his financial empire are under investigation by federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York, as well as the SEC. The Southern District of New York, also where Paul Giamatti's character is, where he operates in the hit TV show Billions. Also, Paul Giamatti's father was Bart Giamatti, who was the former Major League Baseball commissioner, who signed the deal to permanently make Pete Rose ineligible. Anyway, the issue is this. So Mark Walter controls these two insurance companies, Delaware Life and Clear Spring. And what they do is the insurance companies, they get their money, they get their premiums, and then they invest those premiums into all sorts of assets. And this is fine, right? This is fine. None of this is below board. But what has happened is that Mark Walter has said, hey, all this money that, that we're making, I've invested a certain amount of money into these other investments. And it turns out that he may have not been fully forthcoming, and that the more of the investments from these two insurance companies were connected to Mark Walter investments that were improperly concealed. And so, for example, at Delaware Life, he said it was 1.4 million, and it was actually 1.4 billion, excuse me. And it was, in fact, 17 billion. And so this is what the investigation is. They're investigating whether or not this money, these investments, were improperly disclosed. And so then now they have to do, and it's like this complicated plan, and they have to like replace $6.5 billion of Walter related investments with like unaffiliated assets. And so he had to do a bunch of stuff to get liquidity to say, hey, we can't have these assets tangled up. So he ended up selling his stake in the Lakers, the Los Angeles Lakers, just $12.5 billion. And then he's also potentially going to sell his stake in the English Premier Club, Chelsea, which, that's like over 5 billion pounds. So it's like $6 billion. So, we're talking about 18, 19, $15 billion here. And now when that person then owns the PWHL and they're the sole owner of the PWHL, well, that's going to raise a lot of eyebrows. And then the whole idea of single owner, like a single owner entity, it's just not good for a sports league, because you can have collusion. The teams aren't operating in the best interest of themselves. They're operating in the best interest of the league, which is, I think, what happened with the Torrent. And I do want to do a show on that as well, because I think Torrent fans were really done real dirty. But will we have a PWHL? Good news is it seems like yes. And there are some angel investors who are coming in, and they're saying, hey, you know what, we're going to be okay, because the PWHL issued a statement saying absolutely no, expect to change ownership to the PWHL. All right, whatever. I guess that's better than, it's all going crazy and we're all going to die. So I guess if they put that statement out, that would probably be more alarming. But the PWHL has gotten an infusion of cash. They've gotten Kilmer Sports Ventures, which is led by Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment Chairman Larry Tannenbaum, and then the Detroit Red Wings owner Chris Ilitch. They have invested. So, according to Sportico and Canadian Press, Kilmer alone put $100 million into the league, and we don't know how much Ilitch did. Now, it doesn't mean that there's a buyout clause. It doesn't mean that Mark Walter is out. But what it does mean is like they now have at least $100 million in outside capital to keep the things going. And then also, I think the PWHL is just a healthy product right now. I mean, they launched in 2024 with 6 franchises, and now we're going to 12 teams. And, we've got all the success that they had with attendance. And, I do think that the single ownership issue is a problem. And I think that if the PWHL was in danger of falling apart because one person, let's just kindly say, made some interesting classifications about his investment money, then I think that there would be enough interest because of the growth that the Torrent might be purchased by the Kraken if it gets to that point. Now, there's one other really important caveat. If that were to happen, let's say tomorrow they're like, oh man, the PWHL, Mark Walter, he's in really deep water, and it's like $20 billion in mismanaged assets. So we're talking just massive amounts of money. And it turns out that like, oh yeah, boy, this PWHL thing is really in trouble, and we need the 12 teams to go and rescue the franchise. And then we have a normal sports league where each team is owned by a different entity, and then you don't have to worry about collusion or tampering or anything like that. The Kraken, I don't know if they would be right this instant interested in buying the Torrent, because that ownership group with Samantha Holloway and One Roof Sports Entertainment, they're still putting together that Sonics expansion bid, and that expansion fee is going to be somewhere between $7 and $10 billion, it seems. So I think they are trying to still, they have their ducks in a row, but they are currently really focused on the bid for the Sonics, is my read. There's also a competing group involving like some Saudi money and some Gulf money, and I don't know how serious that is, but that could also be putting some pressure on the Kraken. So for now, I think we're going to be okay with the PWHL. I don't think it's going under. I don't think it's going bankrupt. And if Mark Walter does have to get rid of the PWHL, I think there are enough people with enough money and who see the future of the PWHL that they wouldn't need to panic, and that we would still continue to have a women's hockey league, a professional women's major league hockey league, which would be really, really nice because Torrent games are the best. So I think that does it for today's episode. We'll go back to the history lessons next week. And then, we'll just keep chugging along. The season's coming up. It's kind of coming up pretty close. So I'm excited to go to training camp and see all the new people and start a new era of Kraken hockey, which is it a new era or is it just a continuation of the old era? This actually isn't really much of a new era if it's the same coach and same GM and same core, but a new era adjacent. Anyway, that does it for today's episode. Now on video, we send you to Locked On Sports 24/7 YouTube channel. On audio, check out Locked On NHL for your second listen. You can find us at davidjoneslockerroom.com, where we do print coverage of the Seattle Torrent and the Seattle Kraken, or at David Jones LR on all social media platforms. For Davy Jones Locker Room, I'm Zane Begg, and it is my tremendous privilege to be able to do this, and I will see you on Monday.